Knows Best.
Hi, friends, and welcome back to Brenna Knows Best. I'm your host, Brenna Berg. Hi, how are you guys? Happy Monday. I have a little frog in my bed right now, and her name is May, and she's feeling so much better. You obviously all know the chronicles from the past few Fridays, and she is finally really being herself, and I'm so happy. But anyways, let's get into the stories. I'm starting out with like a hilarious one. It's really not that funny, but the way this guy tells the story is killing me. And then of course we have random ones, anything that I decided was worthy of our time. Okay. My 28 male girlfriend, 26 female, insists on narrating every movie that we watch, and I'm losing my mind. I really need some advice here because I love my girlfriend to pieces, but there's this one thing that she does that's driving me absolutely insane. I don't know how to bring it up without hurting her feelings. Every single time we watch a movie or a TV show together, she provides constant commentary, and I mean constant. She'll explain what's happening on the screen like I'm not watching the same exact thing right next to her. Like, oh, look, he's getting in the car now. She'll predict plot twists out loud, like, I bet she's the killer. And she'll give unnecessary background information about the actors. Like, did you know that he was in that one commercial from 2015? Last night, we were watching a thriller, and right at the most tense moment, she goes, ooh, I think the boyfriend did it because earlier when they showed him in the kitchen, there was a knife missing from the block. Like, okay, maybe she's right, but now you've just ruined the suspense for me. The worst part is when she explains obvious things. During an action scene, she'll be like, he's running because the bad guys are chasing him. Or she looks sad because her friend just died. Yes, I can see that. I have functioning eyes and a basic understanding of human emotions. She also does this thing where she'll pause the movie to tell me about how the director's previous film was similar or how this actress was really good in some indie movie I've never heard of. I appreciate that she knows a lot about films, but sometimes I just want to watch something without a film studies lecture. Oh my gosh, I'm dead. I'm not like a movie critic. I really, when it comes down to it, I've not seen a lot of movies, but I understand like for some people, the occasional commentary happens. Like we've all known this, you know, the girl that's like, wait, what was that? Or like, who was that guy? And like that can be annoying. But the fact that she would say she looks sad because her friend died. I remember reading a book. This is like same, but not same at all, by Holly Jackson. It was that murder one. And the book was so cheesy because like something would happen and you could infer what that meant, but then it was written out. It was like, this means that John was there the night that it happened. When like they kind of just said that without saying that, it's like, oh my God, your literal girlfriend sitting next to you, they're running away because the bad guys are chasing them. That would actually send me into orbit. And like, I'm not really actually, when it comes to movies, when I miss something, and this is why I have a hard time listening to podcasts, watching videos, watching Netflix, watching a movie, I cannot miss a single part of the movie. Like if Carter were to say something to me, which he doesn't often do, but every once in a while, I'm like, rewind it. Like even if it's the most mundane thing, like if I feel that I miss something, because I don't want to miss something, if somebody was talking the entire time, I would literally lose my mind. Okay, let's keep going. The thing is, I can tell she thinks she's being helpful and engaging. When I've made small comments in the past, like, let's just watch, she gets like this hurt look and says she was just trying to share her thoughts with me. She genuinely believes she's enhancing the experience, and I don't want to crush her enthusiasm. He really is sweet for like taking her feelings into consideration, but honestly, like now's not the time for patience. But honestly, I've started making excuses to watch things alone or with headphones when she's around, which feels terrible. Movie nights used to be our thing, and now I'm dreading them. I miss being able to get lost in a story without constant interruption. I've tried subtle hints like, oh, let's see what happens when she starts predicting things, or shh, the good part is coming up, but she doesn't seem to get it. I think I need to have a direct conversation, but I have no idea how to do this without making her feel bad about something she clearly enjoys. Has anyone dealt with something similar? How do I tell the person I love that their way of watching movies is ruining the experience for me without making them feel like they need to change who they are? I don't want her to stop sharing her thoughts entirely, but maybe just less frequently. Any advice would be really appreciated. I know this sounds petty compared to real relationship problems, but it's affecting something we used to enjoy together, and I don't want resentment to build up over something so fixable. Well, here is the thing, and something we all need to remember. These quote unquote little things are really the big things. Like, you are going to watch so many shows and movies with this person if this is the love of your life, and therefore this could be a really big problem, or could become a really big problem. I think you just sit her down in like the nicest, calmest way and say, I love you so much. I adore you. You are amazing. But when I watch a movie, I want to just watch the movie and experience it fully. And I feel like when you add the commentary, I miss things, or it just kind of changes the experience for me. And I really want to watch movies with you. Can we chat after the film? Can you hold on to all of these thoughts and, facts and points and things, and then we can discuss after? Actually, now that I'm saying this, this would be such a hard conversation to have, because obviously she's done this probably her whole life. This isn't just something that she picked up, and she's really excited about it. And it sounds like she knows a lot about it, I think. But like, whatever I just said is what you have to do in a similar fashion when you have a problem with your partner that it's really not a big deal, but it's like something that bothers you, the way that, I don't know, your partner does anything that like deeply irritates you, especially something like watching movies or shows. Like, this is going to be a big part of your relationship. We all get home from work every day and we watch something on the television, or most of us do. And if she's constantly doing that, like, you really are going to start to hate her. I feel like you just have to tell her as kindly as possible that you really just want to watch the movie, and let's just try it one time. Like, can you not shut the fuck up for 1 second? Obviously don't say shut the fuck up, but you know what I mean. Okay, that one killed me. I have no notes. Next. Am I the asshole for ending a relationship because she wants full details of my wealth after 2 months of being together? A couple of my friends thought that I acted wrongly here. I'm curious what other people think. I, 40 male, just ended a 2-month relationship with my now ex, 39 female. I'll call her X. I ended it because she pestered me to know about my finances, despite me saying that I wasn't comfortable letting her know something like that so early. Both of us were divorced once already, and we were both the person who asked for the divorce. Neither divorce was terrible. We both divorced for emotional differences. I personally try to keep my finances on the down low for obvious reasons. I've lost a few friendships and had to break contact with more than one family member due to money, people who asked for help and blew it, etc. But this is pretty easy to do because I don't live lavishly. I ride a bike most of the time and I live in a relatively modest house. However, I don't currently work aside from some volunteer work, so that's the one thing that stands out. My first and initial thoughts, they dated for 2 months. That's really not a long time at all to be dating somebody. Let's keep going because obviously I'm going to have more thoughts. I think it's really important to talk about finances, but there is a time and a place. You know what I mean? I made some really good, lucky financial choices early in my life. I bought a house at 17 with money I saved from a young age. My dad arranged the mortgage under his name, but I paid everything and took over the mortgage when I was old enough. And I worked hard to pay off the mortgage by the time I was 24. Long story short, this gave me a serious advantage with my finances in my 20s, and I made a lot of investments, some of which paid off big time in the past few years. In parentheses, he has crypto. Today I don't work, but I'm not decided on being retired. I have some projects that I'm thinking of turning into a business. When X and I met, finances weren't discussed at all, and she seemed really down to earth. She even said a few times that money doesn't matter to her. I tried my best to keep my finances hidden from her because I didn't want to have an inaccurate sense of her feelings for me. And I feel like that's valid. And I don't know what it's like to be a man. And obviously not everybody feels this way, but just traditionally speaking, men are providers. I feel like men really similar to how women fixate on our appearance because we've just been conditioned to believe that we need to be pretty and beautiful to have value. I feel like that is money for men. I feel like many men only feel valuable if they have wealth and money. And where am I headed with this? Oh, I just think that the hiding it and making sure that a girl is there for the right reasons makes sense to me. I actually have a friend who has a very wealthy father, and he has always been not insecure, but like always tried to hide that fact when dating girls, because here's the thing, if you were a girl and you realized that his dad was a billionaire, like, yeah, a lot of girls are signing up for that no matter what. And that sounds cold and that sounds cruel, but like, seriously, I get it. And therefore he tried to keep it under wraps. And this man has been married. She has also been married. I don't know if they have kids. I feel like I understand him not trying to be like crazy, like show offy. I feel like that's normal, but I do think that I understand when a woman wants to know the finances of a man that she's dating. I feel like it's important, but I do still go back to the thing that they were dating for 2 months. That's really not a long time. I also feel like he said that she said money doesn't really matter to her. And I feel like if you've said that quite a few times within 2 months of knowing somebody, that money does matter to you. You know what I mean? Anywho, let's keep going. After being together for about 3 weeks, the subject of finances came up because of the fact that I don't work. I told her about my young home ownership and having my mortgage paid off, and that I have enough money to not work. I shared with her the general sources of my income, but I refused to tell her how much money I had, which was what she wanted to know. I told her that that was a boundary I was setting, and I didn't want to share that kind of specific info. I do understand, but let me add, the devil's advocate, if I was dating a man who was 40 and lived in a home but wasn't working, I would be not maybe as concerned. No, I would definitely be curious about the finances, but I would also be like, are you just never going to work again? Like, how much money do you have? Because can you just retire and never work forever but still live a comfortable life? Or are you just like, you kind of hit big right away and now you're being lazy and not working? I do like kind of understand if I were her in that position. I would want to know more details because that's kind of a weird position to be in. What 40-year-olds do you guys know that like have the ability to not work? I understand, like, yeah, he could have, here's the thing though, he could have a few $100,000 saved up and like be fine for right now, or he could have millions saved up. And to those of you who are like, it doesn't matter, it does matter. If you are seriously dating somebody, especially in that age, like you've already been married, I feel like especially then you'll understand how big finances are in a relationship. Like if this woman got burned by her ex-husband, or her ex-husband didn't work, or he didn't make whatever to, maintain her lifestyle that she wanted, that is like her right to want to make sure that the man that she's going to see is, what would be maintainable for her. I think that's like a normal thing to think and want, because if he doesn't make enough or doesn't have enough or like doesn't plan on going back to work, it's more than just the money, I think, or like that's how I'm viewing it. I think it's like, okay, this 40-year-old man is not working. Like, what's the situation here? You know what I mean? From that point, she seemed very fixated on finances and her personality started changing. She constantly talked about lavish things she wants to do, like expensive trips, etc. And most of all, she did not give up on the questions about my finances. This continued consistently, and she would ask me specifically how much money I had and how much I had invested, etc. It almost became an argument once. She raised her voice about it and quickly cooled herself off about it and changed the subject. I wrongly told myself that cooling herself off like that was a good sign of maturity. Maybe it was, but each time she asked about it, I set a clear boundary by saying that I didn't think we were at a stage of our relationship where we should ask each other things like that. She would agree and then slowly weasel her way back into the topic by the next time we saw each other. I feel like, yeah, there's a way to go about it. If he is clearly saying that like y'all aren't just in a position right now to talk about it, that's fine. Like, let it fucking go. I don't know though. I'm like so straightforward, and I feel like I am so forthcoming with information like that. I just went home to my family and was talking this, that, and the other. Like, I understand it's my dad and my grandparents and like my mom, but I think finances have been a taboo. Obviously, if you're dating, it's a different story. And if you have money, but here's the thing. Oh, yeah, she's in the wrong. Like, to push and push and push when he's said no, just stop. Like, especially because he said we're not in the stage right now. Like, it sounds like he would talk about it if you guys continue to date. So just stop. Like, get to know this man. Oh, but at the same time, y'all, you guys know how I am with finances. Like, at 39 years old, I would want to have the hard conversations first, but I feel like this is probably just a sign that it's like not a good thing, because I'm not going to say she's a gold digger, because I just think that's like, in any case, if there is a woman out there who is high maintenance and gets her nails and hair and like all of the things done, Botox, filler, she's going to want and need a man, unless she can provide all of those things for herself, which I would say if you're living that lifestyle, you should provide those things for yourself. But there are, and you would not fucking believe how many people still get provided money from their parents. Like, especially in Dallas, Texas, this is a city of wealth, and there's fake wealth, but there are so many people that I've met that still get help from their parents. And therefore, like, if your parents are paying, like if there's a girl out there and her parents are still helping her and she's getting Botox and filler, she is going to need a man. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, and I'm not saying anything, but like, that is her right to then want and need a man who makes a certain number. And if you don't have that, that's fine. And like, you would never match up with that kind of girl anyway. Like, this conversation online when men get up in arms, it's like so true. The men that get so butthurt about gold diggers and like, she's just using you for your money, the ones that are saying like, she just wants me for my money, are the ones that don't have money, because also the men who do like want to provide and do that. And like, we all just have our equal match out there. Like, I just think you should have your boundaries, whatever that is. I'm a fucking low maintenance gal, right? I don't need a man that provides this, that, and the other. Yes, I want to live a comfortable life. I don't want to stress about money, but like, I'm not getting Botox and facials and fillers, and you know, I get my nails done. I can provide that for myself. It's like $40 a month. I don't get my hair done, any of that. I don't need a lot of cost, but there are women that do, and like, that is perfectly fine and normal, and she should get that. Okay. Anywho, let's keep going. We weren't dating heavily, I would say. We're not teenagers who spend every waking moment together. We saw each other maybe 2 to 3 times per week, and she would spend the night occasionally, and we also spent 2 entire weekends together. Maybe that's serious, but I don't think so. We hadn't yet ever discussed moving in together, or much less marriage. So we weren't at a stage where I felt it was appropriate for us to ask each other things like that, especially when I had given her what I would consider to be enough information. Anyway, I broke things off this past weekend and it didn't go well. She was very emotional about it, which I didn't expect considering the fact that I thought the relationship wasn't very far along. The only point I made in the breakup was that I felt like my privacy was being invaded because we had not reached any kind of relationship milestone that I would consider talking about things like finances. I told her that I could understand if we were talking about moving in together, she might want to know how financially secure I was, but that wasn't the case. I talked to a few of my friends last night about the breakup. They had all met her once and they liked her. 3 of my friends agreed that I acted immaturely and that I shouldn't have been so secretive. One of my friends said it's unfair to hide something like that because everyone else at least has a ballpark idea of how much money someone makes as soon as they know what kind of job they have, and she didn't have info like that, which is unfair to her. I didn't agree with this because it's foolish to make assumptions like that, combined with the fact that she said multiple times that money didn't matter to her. I'm curious to hear what other people think about this. Okay, well, first of all, the friends are shitty. I feel like whenever friends aren't on your side, it's one thing to like have opinions, but like he's right to have this boundary and feel like she was pushing and pushing. They were never there for those conversations. I don't think he's invalid, but I do want to have a conversation around finances. Like I do kind of agree with what they're saying. Like, yes, when you meet a man and let's say he's a plumber or he's an attorney or he is a tech guy, you can look up on Glassdoor, and I recommend doing this just because it is nice to have an idea. I guess you don't have to, but I would with every guy I dated. And again, it wasn't to like take them out of the, roster if they didn't make a certain number, but like just to have an idea. I don't know, I'm just fucking nosy as hell and I think that stuff is interesting, but they are right in that. Like that's what I'm saying. A 40-year-old with no job living a certain life, like you actually have no idea how much money that man has. And again, if that's the love of your life, it doesn't matter, but it also is so naive to believe. Like it's when people think like love is love and like I would marry him if he had no money. I wouldn't. I would not marry a man who like didn't have a job or who, had no goals and ambitions. Like, I'm sorry if that's vain and that's shallow, but it's true because in this fucking economy, I'm like, there is no love in this world that is worth like living a life of struggle. I'm sorry. That might get me canceled, but you know what I mean? And I think that we are very taboo with money in so many different ways, like in dating, but in, family and like so many different relationships. It's kind of like salary transparency. I feel like the older generations, like my parents and my grandparents, like they didn't talk about, number one, they didn't talk about sex. They didn't talk about money. They didn't talk about salary. They didn't talk about a lot of things. And I feel like that is more hurtful than helpful. I feel like it would be way better to express these things and talk about these things than it would be hurtful. And of course, like this man is saying, he doesn't want a girl to date him just because he has money or he has wealth. I get that, but I feel like they're both kind of in the wrong. I feel like, of course, she shouldn't have pushed. He set a boundary. He said, I don't feel comfortable. And like, that should have been enough to be like, okay, I'll wait. But I do understand wanting to know because I feel like I'm the bitch who wants to know. You know what I mean? I don't think, however, that he was immature in that. And I think that clearly other things were off because if you were really hitting it off with somebody, well, that's the thing. Like to me, that's a compatibility issue. The fact that she pushed and pushed and pushed, like she shouldn't have said that money didn't matter. I feel like number one, anytime you repeat something, it does matter to you. And like, that's him taking it on surface level. Like she said that it doesn't matter. Clearly it mattered. Right? But like, if you don't want to date a woman that is like that and cares about that, because I think I would be her. I think I would also ask those questions, but I am also very forthcoming. It's not like I expect other people to give me all of this information and I'm not talking about it. Like when Carter and I started dating, I told him, the salary I was making at my nanny job, social media, that I paid off all my student loans, that I don't have debt. And he told me, about his student loans. Obviously he wasn't working. He was at law school. Like, I just feel these things organically happen, especially when you're older. Like, I imagine being a 39-year-old woman, if I had been through a divorce, like, I would just want to get to the hard-hitting questions. Like, money, don't they say that it's like the number one reason for divorce? Which I don't know the like actualities to that. I don't know how factual that is, but I do know of like how many relationships. There's a relationship I've talked about before where these two people had a million kids and she never saw the finances. She was given a credit card and the husband told her that they're fine and she never knew. That's fucking terrible. And that's obviously an extreme level, but I think there are a lot of relationships where like people who are married who go 50-50 and keep things separate. And like, if you guys are very forthcoming and everybody knows about the bills and the salary, but like typically in those things where people are 50-50, but they're married, they're hiding things. And like, that is terrible. And I think that if you had been married and you're a 39-year-old woman, you want to know all of the things because you've been there, you've done that. And like, that is an important part of life because it keeps your lifestyle. And also like, again, going back, not only the money, but like the ambition. Like, is he planning to go back to work? Does he need to? If he has millions of dollars, no, he doesn't need to. If he has X amount in investments, he can live on that forever. Like, I feel like that is good information to know. And I know that people feel weird about finances, but I think I'm kind of on her side. I feel like it's better to talk about that than to not. But I do understand as a man where like you are heavily judged for your wealth and people might have the wrong intentions. Okay, I take it back. I'm not fully on her side, but clearly they just didn't see eye to eye. But he's not the asshole. He's allowed to have that boundary and not want to give up his financial information. But it's also like, what would that have hurt? Right? Like, you could still pursue the relationship and like, she's not going to go and spread a smear campaign after y'all date. Like, it's just a woman who you were pursuing. Right? I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted. I see both sides, but I think neither is wrong. Some people would say like, she's a gold digger. She just wants to know how much money. But I feel like that's an important conversation to have because if you're going to seriously date somebody and she did want to go on expensive trips and live a certain life, like, she needs to know what's happening with him because even if she's able to provide that, it's different when you're in a relationship. Like, you split things and like what she thinks is like, the Four Seasons, he might want to stay at the Ritz-Carlton, which is like similar, but you know what I mean? Like, that sounds so stupid, but you do want to know that information. I don't know. I'm conflicted, but he is definitely not the asshole. He's allowed to have those boundaries. He didn't want to talk about it. That's fine. And I support him shutting that down. And I don't think they're meant to be. Okay, next. Am I the asshole for refusing to continue breastfeeding the twins I was a surrogate for? I am 32 female and served as a surrogate mother to my 36 female sister who couldn't bear children as a result of her cancer treatments. I carried twins for her and her husband using their embryos. The delivery took place 3 months ago. This is where it gets bizarre. My sister keeps requesting me to breastfeed the twins since breast is best and she can't lactate. I agreed at first since I wanted to assist her, but it is taking over my life. She insists I visit her 5 to 6 times a day or express milk enough for all meals. I work full time and have my own 4-year-old child to look after. Oh my gosh. I don't know what being a surrogate is like and if you guys signed any papers, but like anything, and like I just talked about in the last episode, we need to have more conversations and y'all should have made it so crystal clear beforehand what that was going to look like. Because here is the thing, before you had the babies, you knew that, and I'm not blaming the woman that was the surrogate. Being a surrogate is like one of the most selfless things you can do, especially for your sister. And I understand she had cancer and that's really hard, but like still, for you to agree to do that in the first place is crazy and so kind, and like that is insane. But she knew that she wouldn't be able to breastfeed because don't you lactate when you have children? She wasn't the one giving birth. Obviously you would be, and that should have been decided before. And I feel like, I'm not sure how surrogate things go in other situations. Like obviously a lot of women use surrogate mothers, but it's somebody they don't really know, or maybe not. I don't know a lot about this topic, but I feel like I've heard that. Like, didn't Kim Kardashian use a surrogate? Oh, maybe I'm spreading it misinformation. However, I feel like there's contracts involved, and like that would be something you decide prior, which isn't helpful now. But to anybody thinking about doing that, like, oh my gosh, 5 to 6 times a day. I don't care how much you love your sister. That's crazy. And that's so much to ask of a person. I informed her I would need to reduce to perhaps twice a day and some expressed milk. And she burst out crying, telling me I was depriving the babies of the opportunity at optimal health. Her husband sent me a text stating I was selfish as I had already did the hard part and I should still assist them. Oh my gosh. He said you're selfish when you were the surrogate. Oh my gosh. Here is the thing. I can understand their potential, issues with the situation and their wants and needs, but to call you selfish when you literally created and held and birthed their twin children, which I'm not saying you hold this over their head, but like for them to do anything other than to bow down to you is fucking crazy. The situation boiled over yesterday when I walked in and discovered my sister had created a bedroom for me and insisted I just come in to feed the twins whenever they wanted. I told her no and mentioned that formula was a perfectly adequate way to supplement. She took offense and said I was abandoning my nephews and breaking our agreement. I left without giving them food. My mom said my sister and I should be more understanding about her situation, but to be honest, I feel my body is being used as a dairy farm. Am I the asshole if I wouldn't want to be their full-time milk supply? I don't think you're the asshole at all, but I do feel like this is a really blurry line. I feel like this 1000% should have been talked about beforehand. And how do people, like, I know I'm such a judger, but like, how do you make such a big decision to have a surrogate or be a surrogate and you don't think about every single possibility and thing that comes with it? Like, this isn't even that crazy of a situation. I feel like a natural question to ask is to, I don't know why. I know that people say breastfeeding is better and it makes sense, but I also know plenty of moms who couldn't breastfeed and did formula, and I don't think those kids are worse off. Like, I'm not here to debate that, but people do have really strong opinions on this, and therefore I feel like you would have known ahead of time if your sister was like this anti-formula person. Again, I don't know the research. I don't know the ins and outs. I'm not here to be controversial about something I know nothing about. I don't see the problem in either, right? Because there are women that just like literally can't breastfeed, and there are women that don't want to, and they're the ones giving their child the formula. I will never understand. And honestly, I'm sorry I have to say this out loud, but moms are some of the most hateful, judgmental people. Like, why does it bother you so much that somebody else is using formula? I have opinions on things, and there are things that I would do and I express, but I would never judge another human being for making a different choice than me. Like, I just will never understand. I see moms get ripped apart left and freaking right for doing this, that, and the other. Again, I'm not even like really close to any moms. None of my friends have had kids. My cousin did, but like I was never really there for like her pregnancies or births. The whole formula versus breast milk, this is something that I've just seen online and therefore know that it's controversial, but like you look at comments and people say the craziest shit. And it's like, again, if you are just expressing an opinion and you are doing a certain thing, but like it's never that. It often feels like, somebody saying like women who give their babies formula are the devil. It's like, what the fuck are we talking about? Right? Chill out. No, they're not. There are so many things that play a factor in that. I just think that's crazy. And I think that moms deserve the most grace. Like judging a mother ever, especially in like those early, at any time, but like especially in pregnancy, in, you know, when the baby is an infant, when they're like really young, anything that that mother does, I cannot even imagine just like all the warfare, like the psychological, the emotional, the physical of like what her body just went through. And like that's who we're ripping apart, a woman who just gave birth to a child, who just did like the most magical thing. I'm sorry, that shit just gets me so fired up. But anyways, are you the asshole? No, you were a surrogate, you did your job. I do understand, like, again, though, this should have happened before. You can't, like, your sister cannot just take over your life. You already did that for 9 months. Again, it should have just been agreed upon beforehand. Like, this is just a messy situation and something that should have been decided, because I do understand if she is that way. And if there are studies that, you know, breastfeeding is good for the baby, I understand wanting the best for your child. But like, how did you not think of that beforehand? And then demanding 5 to 6 times a day while you have a full-time job and your own 4-year-old, that is so much. They should be compensating you. They should be doing something for you. If that is the case, that is what I would recommend. She should pay you. And I would set a fine price on your time, because what do you mean you're just going to take over my life? For how long? How long do women breastfeed for? Wait, let me actually Google that, because I have no idea. Obviously, it'll be variable, I'm sure. The World Health Organization and the American Academy of Pediatrics recommend exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of a baby's life, with continued breastfeeding alongside appropriate complementary foods until the baby is 2 years old or older. Oh my gosh, 6 months, and then possibly up to 2. Obviously, it wouldn't be the same amount of milk. Well, don't women just dry up? Like, doesn't a woman just like stop producing milk, and that's typically when they stop, I believe? Okay, she said the delivery took place 3 months ago. Damn. Yeah, I would just like get on a schedule, or you lie to your sister and say you dried up, and then that's that. What, is she gonna check your tits? That's what I would do. Okay, next. Am I the asshole for going home after being told to sleep on the couch? My boyfriend, Mark, 34 male, is really close with his childhood friend, Jason, 34 male. They're basically inseparable. They work together, hang out all the time, and Mark always calls Jason his second half. Okay, wait, just starting out the gates. If Carter had a very best friend, then he called his second half. Actually, that's not true. I went home and Carter went out with his friend a few times. They did some things and they went out to dinner. And I was telling my family that that's his girlfriend. Not that it's Carter's girlfriend, that Carter is his friend's girlfriend. So maybe I get it, but that's hilarious. Okay. A few months ago, Jason lost his fiance to a sudden illness. He's been grieving hard, and Mark has been doing a lot of support for him. Oh my gosh, that is actually the most heartbreaking thing I've ever heard. I think about that all the time, and I talk about this on TikTok. Like, when you're in a toxic relationship, you know, you wonder if they're cheating or lying or doing all of this. Now, when you're in like a healthy relationship with like the love of your life, hello, Carter, my biggest fear is that he dies. Like, I don't worry that he's doing something, you know, questionable. I trust him. Like, there's none of those thoughts. It's strictly like, oh my gosh, like, is he gonna die? Like, what if he dies? That's literally the only thing I worry about, which is fucked up, but it is what it is. Okay. Mark and I planned a weekend getaway to a cabin. I booked a cozy place for 2. On the day of the trip, Mark showed up with Jason without telling me ahead of time. He said Jason needed a break and he didn't want to leave him behind. I was caught off guard, but I didn't say much. I just tried to go along with it. Jason couldn't afford a separate room, and Mark said we'd all just share the cabin. I was uncomfortable, but agreed. That night, after we got back from dinner, I went to lie down in bed. A few minutes later, Mark told me I had to sleep on the couch because Jason needed the bed. He said it wouldn't be right for Jason to sleep alone on the couch since he's a visitor, and he didn't want me sharing the bed with Jason while he slept elsewhere. I asked if he was serious, and he said yes, that I should understand what Jason was going through. I am so fucking sorry. Y'all booked a trip, a getaway. This isn't your house. He isn't a visitor. He just came with you on a trip that you already had planned to a cabin. I understand he's going through a hard time, but why doesn't he sleep on the couch? And that would be way more useful of the space, because there's two of you and one of him. And either way, he'll be sleeping in a room by himself. Therefore, the couch should do. And she booked this getaway cabin for y'all, and you just sprung Mark on her. And I understand that they are very close and that he lost his fiance. I get that. I don't want to be a cold-hearted bitch, but that's weird. And I would go as far to say, I love, like, it is so important when men have good friendships. Like Carter's friend that he has, they are super close, and that's amazing. But like, I still come first. And again, this is a super unique, specific situation with his fiance passing, but like, I would just get clear on who comes first in this relationship. And like, I don't mean to take it there because we're talking about just like sleeping on a bed or a couch, but like, that's kind of weird in my opinion. I got upset. I hadn't agreed to this setup and felt completely disrespected. I quietly packed my things and left. Mark was mad and said I was selfish and ruined everything. Jason didn't say much, just looked annoyed. Now, Mark's not speaking to me and says I embarrassed him and was heartless towards his grieving friend. I feel bad. Jason's going through a hard time, but I also feel like I was treated as an afterthought because you were. Okay, this is just your boyfriend. I wonder how long they've been dating. I mean, in this situation, would just have a conversation with your partner and be like, Jason can sleep on the couch. Did Jason say that he needed to sleep in the bed? Why is Jason not speaking up? Because I feel like if I were Jason in this situation and my friend came to me and was like, you sleep in the bed, we'll sleep on the couch, I'd be like, no, I'll sleep on the couch. You guys sleep in the bed. Like, that to me is weird behavior in and of itself, no matter if you're grieving or not grieving. Like, I don't really understand that. However, her feelings are valid, and I get that he, if my partner just like left me on a trip, like if Carter and I were somewhere and I was with Natalie and he just up and left, like, yes, that would be embarrassing. But this is why I just question. And here's the thing. I saw a TikTok yesterday where it's like, when you talk about things and hear statistics, the stupid people are factored into the statistics. I think we forget how dumb some people are, because like, not necessarily dumb is the right word, but like, again, put myself in that exact scenario. Like, my friend Natalie, if this happened, would do the same thing. Like, there would be conversation. And also, like, Natalie would be close with my fiance, and therefore, like, this would all be a conversation. And also, like, if it were me or her in the same exact situation, if Natalie and like, let's say I lost Carter, again, she would be there for me, but if they like did a weekend getaway, I wouldn't intrude on that. No matter how badly I was hurting, I would go see family, I would do something else. I wouldn't intrude on them in the first place. You know what I mean? Okay, next. Last but certainly not least, I thought this was like a really good juicy situation, which I did a lot of stories today from the male perspective, but let's just get into it. Am I the asshole for feeling like it's not my job to make sure all the kids at my ex's house have just as much as our two sons? I, 32 male, have two sons, 10 and 8, with my ex-girlfriend. Our relationship ended 7 years ago, and since then, we have shared custody of our two kids. What this looks like is every other week during the school year, then every 2 weeks during the summer break. Up until last year, all expenses for the kids were split evenly among us. This changed in April of last year because she was struggling to afford all the kids in her household. Our two, plus her stepdaughter and her baby daughter. She wanted child support, but instead I took over certain expenses instead, and the judge agreed it was fair. I pay for medical and dental expenses, and she no longer has to pay half. Our younger is on regular meds, so this does alleviate the strain on her significantly, because medical expenses were pretty costly every month, even with insurance. Well, it sounds like they have a great system. They split 50-50. It's interesting. I was talking to my dad this weekend, and y'all will have listened to Friday's episode. I'm going to touch more on this, and I am sorry to bring it up again, but I was asking my dad questions about like him and my mom's, not specifically the divorce, but like co-parenting and what that was like, and if they ever really fought or had issues. And honestly, he told me no. He was like, right at the end of our marriage, there were fights, obviously, and that it ended in divorce. But he's like, when we were co-parenting, no, we just had our schedule. I handed you guys off. She had them. She gave them to me. Like, they didn't really, they communicated about the things they needed to, and that was it. And honestly, out of all the step parent situations I know, I feel like my parents just had a good system. And when they were in person together, like once I got older at sporting events, they were good. They were cordial. Like, people didn't even know my parents were divorced. They would sit next to each other. Like, it wasn't weird. They didn't hate each other. And then that was it. They co-parented. Like, it was the perfect relationship. They weren't friends, behind closed doors. Like, they just did what they had to do. They each had separate relationships. They handed us off. They talked about what needed to be talked about. And in person, when they had to be together, they were good and cordial. And that was that. And honestly, like, when I talk to other people about their situations with divorced parents, like, my parents did such a good job. And it's funny, a quote I always remember is, I had a teacher, and I think his name, no, it was not Mr. Wygum, no, it wasn't Shetler. I'm forgetting his name. I can see him so clearly. He was my AP chemistry teacher, and I had AP chemistry in the morning, and I would go and grab a muffin and sit down, and I would just talk to him. I always had, with my girlfriends, like, I feel like I got along better with their parents than I did like the girls in high school. And like teachers, I don't know, I was probably just more mature, because not in a weird fucking way. Like, I never dated older men, they're like, oh, she's mature for her age. Not like that, but like, I think because I had divorced parents, and it was very like, I was independent at a very young age, and my dad really like gave us a lot of responsibility and trusted us. I had this teacher, and I will never forget, because we were talking about something, and I mentioned that I had divorced parents, and he was like, wait, you have divorced parents? And I remember him saying, like, he probably shouldn't say this, but he's like, I can always tell, or he's like, usually I have a pretty good idea of who has, divorced parents and who doesn't, or who has like not a great home life. And he's like, I would have never guessed that you had divorced parents. And then, of course I'm like, wow, not that it had anything to do with me, but like, I think it really does like have a big, obviously it has everything to do with my parents and how they did at that. Like, no, the situation wasn't perfect. Of course, my mom married an alcoholic. Like, I was exposed to like not great things. And that's why I brought this up to my dad, because my mom still occasionally smokes cigarettes in her house. Yes, you heard that correctly. But they especially did when I was a young child. And I was asking my dad, I'm like, did you ever say anything to her? Like, when you picked us up and we smelt and reeked of cigarette smoke, like, did that not bother you? And he was like, well, and he's right. In North Dakota, that was the time. And like, everybody smoked cigarettes. My grandparents, LaDonna and Gordy, his mom. The only person in my life who didn't smoke was my dad. Even his girlfriend smoked. And like, when we were really young, the bowling alley people still smoked there. But I was talking like late elementary, when it wasn't normal. And I was like, did you ever say anything? And I firmly believe that like in a co-parenting situation, you have to give your kid to that person, and what they choose to do, unless it's obviously harmful, no shit, like it's a safety risk, which that is secondhand smoke. But at the time, people didn't really know that, unless it's like a major safety risk, or like the kids, are potentially at harm. Of course you speak up and you say things. But like, if you just have a problem with the way your ex-partner is, parenting or, doing a certain thing, I think you zip it. I think you have to zip it. Unfortunately, when you get divorced and you no longer, are with that person, there are things that that is up to them when your kids are with them. Like, I don't believe in you trying to tell the other person, your ex-partner, what they should do with the kids. And that's why I was like, Dad, did you ever say anything? And he's like, no. And he's like, number one, everybody kind of smoked at the time. But he's like, number two, what, I didn't have that power. I didn't have that say. I could choose to do what I did in my house, but we, split custody. She had you guys like that, was up to her. I wasn't going to say anything. And that's also why the co-parenting thing I think worked really well, because my dad's not one of those people that's like so crazy and aggro and like controlling. My dad's like the most laid back person. And therefore, I'm sure my mom acted a little bit crazy and like did certain things, but he never spoke up. He never started arguments. He's like, no, we really didn't ever have like any arguments after we were divorced. Like, you know, we had the plan. It was this. If we needed to change weekends, we just spoke. And of course, he's like, I'm sure, you know, did I get annoyed to myself about like, you know, maybe your mom wanting you on a certain time? Maybe, but he's like, I don't really remember that. And I'm like, that's fucking crazy. But good for them. Anyways, I'm not sure how we got here. You know, I just love to talk about myself. Let's keep going. This was apparently not enough to make things equal between all the kids, and my ex and her husband have complained that my sons have a better quality of life overall than their stepsister, who's 7, and their half sister, who is 15 months old. My ex is currently pregnant again, so another child will be joining their household in the next few months. Okay, wait. His ex and her now husband are complaining that their kids don't have the same quality of life. He is not responsible for those children's quality of life. I'm sorry. Again, and like, if you're already complaining that your kids are not having a good quality of life, why are you having another child? Ew. There are so many people that should not have kids, and especially then these people are people that end up co-parenting. And like, what do you mean? Then provide more. Like, that's not up to your ex-husband to take care of your current kids and your new husband's kids. What? Or child? That's crazy. There were fights about summer camp because our boys are going this summer, but my ex and her husband cannot afford to send his daughter. Before the summer camp issue was a field trip issue. They feel like I could share the cost or gift the experience to this little girl so she can have the same experiences as my son. Oh! Tell her dad, your new husband, to step it up and make it happen for his own daughter. What are you talking about? You're demanding your ex-husband, who you share 2 kids with, takes care of your new husband's kids? No. I understand. Like, that would be frustrating. But what are we talking about? Share the cost or gift the experience? Again, I hate to be like traditional and take it there, but similar to we were talking about how men, like their wealth is their status. Would this man not want to step it up and maybe look for a different job or maybe work a few more hours to provide that for his own daughter as a man or as a woman? If I had a child, if I were her and then I went and had other children, I would never let my ex know that I was struggling, and I would do everything in my willpower. Like, I would never ask or admit that. Like, why would you even, I mean, that's like an ego thing, and I definitely have an ego problem, but like, what do you mean? My ex's husband told me I should feel responsible for ensuring that all kids have just as much as my sons do. Why? That is not his responsibility. Those are not his kids. If you feel so strongly about it, then you should provide that for your children. I hate to be cold and harsh, but like, am I in the wrong here? That is not his job. I asked him why I would be responsible for that, and he told me for the benefit of my boys. He told me a decent person would do everything to make sure all the kids in a family are given the same leg up in life. What is this deadbeat dad doing? Why is he coming to you saying that you should provide this? What is he doing? Oh my gosh. I told him that's something he should be doing, as he's the person who blended his family with my ex's, and I did not. I told him he should be embarrassed to ask me to pay for his children to have a good life. Thank you. Is that not what I just said? Is that not what I just said? Are you not embarrassed? Can you not provide? Then you shouldn't have had those kids. Oh, it makes me sick. Especially, and again, I just spoke to my father about this when we were back home. My dad to me was like, Brenna, I cannot imagine having a child right now. Like, how do people afford a children? And like now more than ever, I feel like shit is so expensive. Like back in the day, people could pop out kids and like make it work. You know, cost of living wasn't that crazy. And you could actually, my father, sorry to toot his horn a million times, he was a single dad of two working a minimum wage job, an entry level job, which it's not that way anymore. You cannot do that unless maybe you still can in bumfuck Idaho, right? Like my dad was in bumfuck North Dakota. It is different than if you were a single dad in Dallas, Texas, because the cost of living here is crazy. But like you used to be able to do that and get by, and my dad did. And not to say that he didn't make sacrifices. He literally just told me that he lived paycheck to paycheck, and I had no, I mean, obviously I knew we didn't have nice things and we didn't buy things and we never, you know, went on vacation and that sort of thing. But like, I never had an idea of like how probably stressed he was. And he admitted to me now that he was constantly stressed, naturally, of course. But like kids nowadays in this current day and age, you always should have thought about that. Like, I don't think it's right for people to have children in shitty circumstances, right? Like if you are like, you can't even provide for yourself and then you're going and having a child, like, of course it is everybody's right, but I don't think morally that is right. Like, I think that's so sad for the kid. If you literally could be homeless in the blink of an eye, like, why would you bring a child into that? That is just like my honest opinion. But especially now, like, I don't think that ever should have been a thing. But now if you can't get by, which I understand, but it's like, why would you want to do that to yourself? And why would you want to do that to your kid? Bring a kid into something. And like these people, I don't know the situation, and maybe the dad is very well off, and that would be one thing. Like, yeah, the two boys, still, that is not his job to provide for your kids. But like, if he is making a fuck ton of money and these kids live a crazy life and your kids just aren't living the most wonderful life, but they're still taken care of, why is he complaining at all? The fact that your kids have a roof over their head and they're doing fine and like whatever. But if like they're just getting by and like your kids are truly suffering, like step it up, get another job, and figure that out. That's your job. That's not this guy's job. That's your job. My ex tried to convince me of this too, but I ignored her, and then I had my lawyer reach out and state we would move all contact to Our Family Wizard. This must be an app. In return, she tried to sue me for child support, or she looked into it, but she was told that would not be likely because financially it would not be considered a requirement when I pay more for our children already per last year's amended court order. I have been consistent about using the app, but my ex still brings up the topic of making things fair and equal for the other children in her home. I have replied once on there stating I will continue to support our two children, but not hers. For now, she is keeping it all to the app, thankfully. Wait, let me look into what this app is. Our Family Wizard? I've never heard of that. Number one, legal pro preferred, accepted by courts in all 50 states. Our Family Wizard is the leading co-parenting app among families living separately. Wait, there's a Reddit article. Okay, Our Family Wizard for communication. My co-parent cannot seem to follow the boundaries around contacting me and literally hear from her via text daily with things of low urgency or even unrelated to the children. 1 minute she's attacking my parenting, then saying how she misses me, then emailing me and CC her lawyer with threats. She's very unstable, and it's getting to be concerning as we approach a year since separation to divorce, and she's also dragging that out and through the mud. My lawyer suggested this app and was curious around those who use it. Does it have a pre-built rules establish where messages get responded to within 24 to 48 hours? Do you use it for all communication? Does the calendar sync with iCal? The Cal is secondary, but really need to manage high conflict, nonstop communication. Interesting. It's an app. That way they communicate through there, I guess, for maybe that way you could have proof of like what's being said. We switched to Our Family Wizard for all communications under a similar circumstance. I was getting harassing calls every couple of days, text messages, this, that, and the other. I don't know why, but putting OFW, Our Family Wizard, in place solved the problem immediately. She stopped harassing me. It must just keep them in check, and maybe you can bring up in the courts like they're still texting when we're supposed to be using this Our Family Wizard. I'm not really sure. That's really interesting and good on him, because I think that's just helpful in general. I don't exactly feel guilty about this, but I had wondered if people would find me a little petty, maybe for my hard stance on this. I could afford to help, but choose not to, and I know the kids are innocent of all the issues between the adults, but that's basically the only reason I'll ask. Am I the asshole? My final thoughts are, it is not your job to take care of your ex-partner's new kids and like her new husband's kids. That's actually crazy. Stop having children if you can't provide for them. And like, again, that's something like in all scenarios, if that husband was going to be threatened by that or like knew of the situation that like her ex, you know, maybe had a decent job and provides this, this, and this, if that was going to make you insecure or make you feel a type of way, or if you came into this new marriage thinking that you would get money out of him to take care of your own children, like, why would you even want that? Me as a woman, I would never let that happen. Like me as a literal woman, I would never. If I had a kid with a past ex, I would never ask for money. I would do whatever the fuck I had to just to get that fucker away from me. I especially wouldn't have more kids or ask them to take care of my future partner's kids. That's insane. I would just keep doing what he's doing, keep all of the communication in that app for whatever purpose it has, and that's it. You do as the court says, you provide for your own children and they have to learn. And here's the thing, unfortunately, and this is what happens to a lot of kids, and like why I say that my parents were the best and thankfully didn't have us part of their, you know, divorce, or like they didn't fight after the divorce. So many kids have so much trauma. You could be listening right now that from things that your parents did and said and fights, and like kids are innocent and it sucks, but like also those people are never going to learn. Like I think in a scenario you're enabling, like if you were to step up and give them money for their kid, number one, like how do you know that money is going there? But number two, that's not your job and they're never going to learn. Like they need to learn to step up and like, number one, stop having kids if you can't even provide for your current kids, but like they will never learn. And unfortunately the kids, again, hopefully the kids are not in harm's way and they're not struggling, but like, yeah, if they're not getting the nicest, newest things or getting to go to camp, like you guys then figure that out. Like that's on you. That's crazy that they are putting that on you. That's absolutely insane. Okay, you guys, those are all the stories. Thank you so much for listening. Happy Monday. Have the best week, and I will see you on Friday. Okay, bye, guys.